I was a huge music fan as a kid, and a huge Anglophile, and really into European prog as a young kid and a teenager coming up. So the prog thing kind of moved itself into mid to late 70s weirdness, like the New York Dolls and the New York scene, television, that kind of stuff, which then led me to Throbbing Gristle and all the stuff that was going on with them. So yeah, before Grey Factor existed, I was aware of bands like Perubu, Devo, Throbbing Gristle, that kind of stuff. But it was all happening like in the moment. I mean, we kind of formed quickly after learning about them. I think the Human League had put out Being Boiled 7-inch, and that's all they had out. And that was a really huge inspiration, because it was like, okay, you really don't have to even know how to play any instrument at all. You can just make noise and have fun. And that for me was the killer. So, because even with a band like Perubu or Throbbing Gristle, you're playing guitars and you're hitting drums and making noise in that way. So yeah, so I had an awareness. I think Joey, he can talk for himself, but a little less so. Yeah.
Well, through you. I mean, I learned about these bands through you, but I was very into Throbbing Gristle and Ubu, Tuxedo Moon, which was a San Francisco area band that was kind of an electronic band. We definitely knew about them. What was interesting was we were into that music, but nobody in Los Angeles really was. I mean, Los Angeles was much more like a punk scene. So we were, and Kraftwerk, obviously, those types of bands. So, yeah. There were a couple things. Age, not a lot of places to go, and the fact that we were very England and European focused, I think, because our music was more aligned to that than to the LA scene.
We had no way for us to be able to get in touch with anybody really that would have put a record out by us. We were definitely not the flavor of the month that like Slash magazine was happening at the time, and the places like The Mask were happening at the time. But those places were strictly punk rock, I mean, it was not, there was only maybe Nervous Gender was a electronic band pretty much, and the Screamers had synthesizers, but they had drums, and San Francisco had a bit of a scene, but the chances of us in the situations that we were in, coming from the San Fernando Valley, which is one of the uncoolest places in Los Angeles, or was then, we didn't live in Hollywood, we weren't a part of anything. We had to book our own nights and try and find other bands that were like us to be on the bills, so it just didn't seem like a realistic thing. And I don't think that we thought it was maybe up to scratch, and I only kind of came to the conclusion it was up to scratch when the pandemic hit, and I pulled all the music out and started listening to it again and said, oh, you know what? No, this is actually completely happening. Yeah, the scene that was happening totally influenced us, but not musically. It influenced us in a way of, oh, okay, anybody can do this. Or, oh, now there's fanzines. Or now there's Slash Magazine. And now, we started to go see the Runaways at little clubs, 200 people. Or, we would see the Plugs, or and it just, that there was a scene where people were making music that wasn't like it had previously been. That was super influential to us. But there wasn't a bunch of kids sitting around hanging out talking about electronic music and synthesizers. They were too expensive. I mean, the stuff that we had at the time would be worth $100,000 now.
And not just expensive, but unusual, right? I mean, there weren't a lot of people that were into synthesis, analog synthesis at the time, because it was kind of complex and difficult to do. And so, like Jeff said, I grew up in a recording studio, so that's how I happened upon my first synthesizers. But then I had this unusual thing. My high school music teacher was really into it. And my senior year of high school, I only needed to take one course to graduate, and I wound up taking 12, and 11 of them I just sat in the music building and played with synthesizers. So, but not many people had that exposure, and I think that's why when we found Paul, we were like, oh my God, this guy's into synthesizers. We all came together. It was like a very close-knit grouping, I think. Yeah.
Joey's up for it. I've been less up for it only because, and maybe we'll explore it. I was down to do covers, and I'd be down to do more of them.
Yeah, I guess what's interesting here is that I was really resistant to even playing live. So, and Jeff had to convince me. So, and he's kind of turning the tables on me that I want to record some new stuff. But I think the cover piece, I think that's interesting, and that's why we decided to do these 2 covers, because it gives you the ability to make it your own and be creative. And by the way, the one track, 12XU, which is a Wire song, which was a huge band for us. I mean, it's a very true cover of that song, just all electronic, no guitars, right? The other track, the Century Sly Chic by Compact Set, it sounds very different than the original. And I think that's where we're able to kind of put new things into it and be creative.
I've had some people hit me up on Instagram that have said that, and I don't know if I believe them, but I'm happy to have them along for the ride. But that's great. Or yeah, there was one story real quick where a guy hit me up and said, "Are you the guy Jeff Jacquin from Body Products?" And that completely freaked me out. He hit me up on Bandcamp, and the Body Products was the band that we put a 7-inch out before that was very Ramonesy. So he had found the Body Products single like 20 years ago, and me and Joseph's names are on the Body Product because we wrote the song. So it's J. Jacquin, J. Cevetello, or whatever, right? And so this guy for 20 years would every once in a while put our names in to the Google. And all of a sudden Gray Factor came up, right? And so this guy was there before even Gray Factor, which is so insane. And then when we did, we've only played twice, 2 shows since we released the record, the first record. And he came to one of the shows and, saw the show and lost his mind and was like meeting these guys that that he'd been trying to hunt down for 20 years.
But, so there are people who knew us from back then who came to the shows, my friends from high school. So they definitely came to the shows, and I think they loved it. And, I think, we enjoyed it. The other thing that was really interesting, though, is that, we had young, 22, 23-year-old kids come up to us after, people come up to us after the show, and they were completely into it. They're like, I love this stuff. And I thought, wow, okay, this is 45 years old. This is almost twice as old as you, and you're into it. And that's great. It's good to find an audience like that.